good to be with you. We have been looking at the greatest sermon ever spoke, the Sermon on the Mount. Spoke by the greatest person who ever lived, our Savior, telling us about his kingdom and the way things are in his kingdom. And it begins with what we call the Beatitudes. And we've made a journey through these Beatitudes. And we've told you that they build on each other. Well, today's Beatitude that we're going to consider gives us a transition moment. And we'll talk about that momentarily. But I'd like for us to read together the Beatitudes so that they'll be in our hearts and our minds as we refer back to them and to them this morning. It says, now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. And he said, let's read this together, can we, church? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I can't hear you. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Some serious stuff there, church. Today, in a moment, we want to look at the fifth attitude, which is blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. But I want you to note that there comes now, when we move from the fourth beatitude to the fifth beatitude, there's a transition. And it's a transition from inside out. The first four talk about the inside condition. Poor in spirit, mourning over that, being meek and surrendered to the Lord, and hungering after righteousness. The next four show what happens to a person that has these characteristics in their life and the persecution they may suffer through or face as a result. And so it moves now like this. Because they're like this, this is what takes place. Those who have received mercy are going to give mercy, and so forth. And in fact, some have gone so far as to take these Beatitudes and say each one relates to the next four. The first four relate directly to the next four. It says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are merciful. Those who are poor in spirit know how desperately they need mercy, and they know that they want to give mercy to others. Those that are broken, those that mourn know how necessary it is to have a pure heart, and they want people to have a pure heart. Those who are meek and have surrendered and have peace with God, they want others to have peace with God. And those who long for righteousness know that they will be willing to suffer for righteousness' sake. But now as we look at this fifth one, this mercy, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. I want you to see with me this morning that there's levels and layers of mercy. And as we understand this, and it is so rich, and that I always am concerned that I can't express all that I want to say in this, but I think it's so important that we can capture at least some of the aspects of this idea of mercy. The mercy that we have received is the mercy that we want to give to others. Now, the first thing I want us to consider, and what I've put in my notes to just as kind of hangers for me to be able to share this, I call it mercy expressed. We're going to express this mercy this morning. Understand it, kind of define it a little bit. But the idea is this. Biblically, it carries the point of being beneficial and charitable to other people. The idea is that there's a compassion that's there, a genuine desire to help others. Forgiveness flows out of mercy. It flows out of mercy, and it's connected to the love that God has given to us in our own lives. Now, mercy and grace are oftentimes talked about together, and sometimes they can actually be interchanged with each other. And what I mean by this, in Luke chapter 18, there's a tax collector that comes to Jesus. He's in the temple, and he comes before the Lord in the temple and smotes his breast, and he says, "Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner." And the Bible says he went away justified. He went away justified. He received mercy. And then we're familiar with Romans chapter 3, where it says, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Verse number 24 in there, I don't know if we have that particular verse or not this morning, but verse number 24 says, they fall short of the glory of God and are justified freely by his grace through redemption by Christ Jesus. Do we have that verse? I don't know if we got that verse or not. But I want you to capture this. In Luke 18, they're justified by mercy. And in Romans 3:24, they're justified by grace. They kind of tie together, though there is a difference that exists between the two. We see them actually together in Hebrews chapter 4 and verse number 16. It says this, let us approach God's throne of grace. That's a wonderful thought. It's not a throne of judgment. It's not 3 strikes and you're out with God. Hallelujah. It's a throne of grace. We approach a throne of grace with confidence that we might receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. What a verse. What a verse. This is one of those over the top. You want to put this in your heart and in your spirit. Let's approach his throne with confidence. Come on, he said, come on. So that we may receive mercy and find grace to do what? To help us in our time of need. So if you need help, all you got to do is come to him. Come to him. Now, this is not a human proverb. This is a scriptural principle. Some think, well, look, you be nice to others and people will be nice to you. Now, sometimes that happens, but it doesn't happen all of the time. This is not a man principle. This is a God principle. God says, if you're merciful, you will receive mercy. If you're merciful, you will receive mercy from me. Man may not give it. I will be the one that will give you the mercy that comes from me and me alone. The most merciful person who ever lived was Jesus. The most merciful person who ever lived was Jesus, and they crucified him. Man does not always return mercy for mercy, but God does. God does. This we know. This we know. His grace is sufficient, and his mercy endures forever. His grace is efficient, and his mercy endures forever. And I thought about the song. And I can't help it, Jan Hauser, but every time I think about one of these songs, I think about you. Mercy there was great, and grace was free. Can we finish it together? Pardon there was what? Multiplied to me, and there my burdened soul found what? At Calvary. Now, I could sing that in R sharp, okay? Mercy there was great, and grace was free. Pardon there was multiplied to me. And there my burdened heart found liberty at Calvary. At Calvary. Now, let me give you the best definition I can give you now in understanding mercy and understanding grace. Because this will help us, at least it helped me to be able to share with you what I feel that we need to understand when it says, blessed are the merciful. Okay, this is grace. Okay, let me define grace for you. And I'm going to ask you to repeat this in a moment. Grace is getting what we don't deserve. Can we say that together? Let's say grace, and then pause, and then getting what we don't deserve. All right, you ready? Grace is getting what we don't deserve. Now, you can't talk with your mouth closed. No, you got to open your mouth, okay? You can't, it's like trying to sing with your mouth closed. It doesn't work very well. Grace is getting what we don't deserve. Okay, mercy, I'm going to say it, and then I want us to say it, because this is important. Mercy is not getting what we do deserve. You ready? Mercy is not getting what we do deserve. So we get both from God. We get mercy, and when he gives us mercy, we don't get what we do deserve. And when he gives us grace, we get what we don't deserve. This is how I want you to see this and remember. This is how I'm remembering it. The coin is love. The coin is love. One more time, Pastor. The coin is love. On one side of the coin, it says grace. On the other side of the coin, it says mercy. The coin is love, and in love, of God, the love of God, we find mercy and we find grace. Now, in the most familiar verse that all of us had to remember in Sunday school, all of us had to remember sometime, and it's the verse that's many times put up in sports. You'll see a reference, and the reference will be to John what? And I want you to think about that with me because you know it so well. It says, for God so what? What's the word? Loved. He so loved the world. He so loved the world. What did he do? He gave. He gave. That's grace. That's grace. He gave. Grace is getting what we don't deserve. God gave it. God gave it. And then it goes on to say, he so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him, right, should what? What? Oh, that means we were destined to perish. We deserve to perish. That's mercy. That's mercy. We should not perish. The reason why we don't perish, that's what we deserve. And he gives us mercy so we don't get what we deserve. And then it ends with more. But have what kind of life? Everlasting life. That's some more grace. That's some more grace. That's getting what we don't deserve. In the most simplest, no, I shouldn't say that because it's not simple. In the most well-known verse that all of us understand or have memorized and are quite aware of. In that verse, it shows us the love of God. And in that verse, it shows us that he has given us something we didn't deserve, and that we didn't get something we did deserve. That's mercy and grace. That's mercy and grace. Now, follow with me, please. Because we're expressing this mercy, and I want us to capture this, church. Mercy cannot be expressed. And let me just say it like this. This is what I wrote. Mercy we have and express cannot exist without justice. God cannot give us mercy without justice. In other words, God just doesn't overlook things. He doesn't say, no big deal. Or, it doesn't matter. Man, me, you, all of us, we have offended God big time. All we like sheep, what have we done? Everyone what? It's to his own way. We have been separated from God. We separated ourselves. We have sinned. God cannot, get this, church, God cannot give mercy without justice. It's contrary to who he is. His holiness demands justice. It demands justice. So you know what he does? He pays the price for the justice. Because in his mercy, he sent Jesus. And Jesus died. And Jesus paid the price. You finish the rest of Isaiah 53. The Lord has laid on him what? Yeah, the iniquity of us. What? Oh, the chastisement of peace was what? Upon him. See, you can't have mercy without justice. You can't have it without justice. But God takes care of that for us. That's how huge this is. When the woman is being stoned there, or set to be stoned in John chapter 8, and she wasn't stoned, but somebody had to pay the price for her sin. And Jesus says, you don't have to do it, ma'am. I will. I'll pay the price. I'll pay the price. This is what I want you to understand here. The cross made mercy available. The cross made mercy available because God's judgment was satisfied. That is huge, church. Don't get lost, and if you can't figure all that out, just lay that aside and remember the two things I told you about mercy. James says it this way. Mercy triumphs. Mercy triumphs over judgment. You know why? Because the price was paid. That's how huge mercy is. It's not simple or careless. It's not a careless thing. God demands holiness, and we can't give it to him. So he provides a way for us to do it. It's all God. In the beginning, God. In the middle, God. And in the end, God. We call them the what? Alpha. And you know how those evangelists would preach it? The Alpha and the Omega and everything in between. All right? Yeah, don't shout me down, you know what I'm saying? Capture this, would you please? The cross made mercy available. And we can come. And when Jesus sees us now, when the Father sees us now, he sees Jesus. He sees Jesus because Jesus paid the price. Second thing I want you to notice in this, it says, blessed are the merciful. Not only we express this mercy, but this mercy is extended. It's extended. See, mercy needs to be shown. When we show mercy, it gives evidence that we've received mercy. Those who have received it will show it. Right. That's the part there. Mercy, catch this, church. Mercy is a mark of our salvation. It shows that God has invaded our lives and done something inside of us. When we want to give people a piece of our mind, instead we want to give them the peace of God. Mercy. It shows that we got it. It shows that we have it. Practically speaking, when we give mercy to people, we give it to people and we extend it to people. And if we don't do it, we miss it in our own lives. God gives mercy to those who give mercy. Now, I'm not talking about salvation. I'm talking about relationship with God. When we get to the Lord's Prayer and we talk about forgiveness, in a later time, there is a positional and a relational mercy. Positionally, we got the mercy of God. But when we don't extend mercy, our relationship with him is hindered, and that hinders relationship in our lives. We feel God distant. He's there. We still belong to him, but he knows, and we know, there's something between us. Something between us, and he will show mercy. He will show mercy. When we do not show mercy, we limit God showing mercy to us. I said it this way. If anyone knows forgiveness, it's us who have received it. I put it like this. The merciful get it. The merciful get it. When you know that you have offended God and that God has been merciful to you, you're saying, of course I'm going to be merciful to others. Of course I am. I have to be. And so Jesus gives this story in Matthew chapter 18, this parable. And it's a parable of the unforgiving servant. He says, and it begins with Jesus with talking to Peter, and Peter trying to be magnanimous when asked, how many times, he says, Lord, how many times should we forgive? 7 times? And if you've studied that, you know that the thought of the day was that you would forgive somebody 3 times. 3 strikes and they're out. I mean, what are you going to do? Excuse me. But Peter doubled it, they say, and added 1. And so he is thinking he is being magnanimous. I'm going to forgive people 7 times. God, that's great, isn't it? On the 8th time, they're on their own. All right? And what does Jesus say? Not 7 times, but what? Can you imagine how Peter must have felt? It's like, this guy was on 6, and I thought I was going to get out of it. And then he tells the story. This guy had a huge debt. 10,000 talents. That's usually the largest term in the Greek. 10,000. It's, multiplied millions and probably billions of dollars in our thinking. He had a debt he couldn't pay. And he goes to the master and says, forgive me, I can't pay this. And what am I going to do? He throws himself at the feet of the master, and the master forgives him. Then he goes out. You remember the story? He goes out and finds somebody that owes him $100. That's Detroit talk. $100, okay? And he takes the guy and chokes him. You owe me $100. Chokes him. And the guy falls down and says, forgive me, I will pay. It's a payable debt. But he throws the guy in prison. Debtor's prison. And demands that he pay back. When the master finds out what he did, and said, go get him, put him in there. He's going to have to pay until he understands what's been done for him. The point of the matter is, how dare we who have been forgiven immense things, not forgive others. Not to forgive others. How important it is for us to understand that. One last thought. I really don't know what that point means when I say that, one last thought. It means I'm on my third point and I got 10 more things to say, okay? Mercy experienced. It'll be those, the language is very strong in this. One of the things that I enjoy when I'm listening, reading, is the grammar of the text, and to hear how it just breaks out in our English. That it's those and those alone who are qualified, who show mercy, are qualified to receive it. Those and those alone. And that's what happens. We get mercy when we are merciful. Our tendency is to cut people off. That person is impossible. Cut them off. And we may not say it out loud, because we're too spiritual to do that. But it's almost like they're not considered worthy of our mercy. They're not considered worthy. And we won't say it. We won't say it. And even when mercy is extended, it doesn't eliminate, and this is a whole other aspect of this, it doesn't eliminate that you speak to them the truth in love. That you say, sir, ma'am, friend, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what's happening? Do you understand that your behavior is not acceptable? And it's not that we want to enable people. That's not the whole idea at all. But we extend mercy in spite of how they may act and how they may respond. Now look. If you steal money from me, the next time I see you, I'm not going to give you my wallet. Okay? It doesn't mean I don't trust you. It's that I just don't trust you. You don't, if a person has proven themselves, you don't give them. There are people most of the people, hold on, let me take off my glasses. Okay. And most of the people in this room, I'd hand you my wallet, would not even consider it. There's 2 or 3 you I'd be a little suspicious about, but other than that, I wouldn't even think about it. Like, Pastor, I know your wallet doesn't have anything in it anyway, so what am I concerned about? The point of the matter is, we do show mercy and we receive mercy. And we do our best that when we're talking to people and when we're encouraging people, that we do our best to do it and speak the truth in love. And it makes a world of difference because our desire and our longing is to help them. To help them. And we need to know this. The more mercy we extend, the more mercy we receive. In God's kingdom, this is a concluding thought. In God's kingdom, mercy begets mercy. In God's kingdom. I was talking to a friend of ours, Joe Phillips. He's been with us, and he happened to be part of the celebration in Saginaw last weekend. And I was talking to him, and he told me about a illustrated sermon that he has, and I'm going to work out a time perhaps for him to be with us and share that. But he talked about forgiveness, and he talked about how, and this is my work through on it. He talked about how important it is that we do forgive, and forgiveness makes a difference in our life. So often we think when we don't forgive, when we don't forgive a person, we got that person locked up. In reality, they're not locked up. We are. We're locked up. And we need to choose to forgive. And you can't do that on your own. You can't. Only God can help you to forgive, because there are offenses that have taken place, things said, things done that were wrong and should never have happened. But if we don't choose to forgive, we're the ones that get locked up. And God's mercy in our lives gives us the ability to extend mercy to them. Easy? No. Possible? Yes. And one of the things that I was concerned about as we brought this message to a close and then receive communion together, that we not miss an opportunity to allow God to help us. That today, whether you realize it or not, it can be a freeing moment in someone's life. That you can walk out differently than you came in. Not because of something that I've said, but because something God's going to do. His word is going to become alive to you. And that's what we want. See, when Joseph was in prison, sold by his brothers, and then God brought him out, he says this statement: "The Lord has caused me to forget and made me fruitful in the land." And I thought, that is so interesting. Did he forget? No. You read the story. He knew what they did. What did he say to them? You meant it for what? Did he remember? Yeah. But the pain was gone. God took the pain away. And you know how the ways that God takes pain away in our life is he lets us know there is some purpose behind it. Amen. There is some purpose behind the pain. They meant it for evil. But all things work together for good. Amen. To we who belong to God. There's a purpose in that. And then he said, he made me fruitful. So it isn't that we act like it never happened. Of course it happened. Of course they said did that. But we realize that God's got some purpose in it. And that when we give mercy, we receive mercy. David was hunted. King David, before he became king, was hunted like a dog by King Saul. And on 2 occasions, God gave Saul to David, and David could have stopped it. He could have killed Saul on 2 occasions. But David chose to show mercy to a man that had one purpose, and that was to destroy him. David won. He won. Now, we're friends here. There are some people I want to choke, okay? I understand that. I mean, it's like, what's wrong with you? Why would you say that? Why would you do that? That hurts. Don't you realize? And I'm sure that there's some people that want to choke me. You realize what you said, or you didn't say, or you didn't do, or you should have done, or you did do. But what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So, when a church is over 100 years old, and this building across the street is like 65 years old, there's a lot of keys that don't mean anything anymore. All right, the doors have been changed, the locks have been changed, and we probably have 1,000 keys to that building over there. You know, and 2/3 of them, 80% of them, we have no clue what they go to. We're just afraid to throw them away because there'll be a lock we can't get in. But I just have a handful that I took that they all look alike. But I want us to pull ourselves to the Lord right now. This is some surgery, okay? And in surgery, the atmosphere is very purposeful. They are very conscious, the surgeon, the nurses, all of the people there. It's a very delicate moment. And I want you to just take for the next 4 or 5 minutes, as we get ourselves ready to receive communion, that this is some surgery can go on right now. Somebody could walk out of this room different because they captured mercy. And I want that to happen. And I almost hesitate to do, to do this, but I want to make the difference. I want this moment to have even more lasting impact. So I'm going to be laying these keys down. They're just keys. They're just keys. And I'm just going to lay them down, and in a moment I'm going to invite some people who know that they need to forgive. And I only have 6, but we can get more keys. And this is what I want you to do. So we're going to just go into a very delicate moment. And then if you know there is somebody, this key is to free you. It's to free you. It's to free you. And I want you to take this key, and if you have a keychain, I want you to put it on a keychain and keep it for a month or so. And then you can throw it away if you want to. But maybe you've done this before, but you haven't been able to get the purpose out of this. How in the world could there be purpose out of what he did, what she said, what happened? How can there be purpose in that? How can there be good coming out of that, God? but we submit to you. So let's bow our hearts before the Lord before we move any further. Lord, as we would bring this moment to a close and take time to remember you and remember what you have done, I want God to give people the opportunity to receive forgiveness and to be able to set something aside. The Lord has caused me to forget because he gave me purpose out of it. He sent me ahead of you, Joseph said. Father, thank you for what you can, will, and do accomplish in our lives. If this is something you need to do, in a moment I'm just going to ask you to get up, come get a key, and go sit back down. If this is a word for you today that, okay, this is going to be done now. I'm going to choose to be merciful because you have been merciful to me. I received what I didn't deserve, and I didn't receive what I did deserve. And I'm going to do the same in this situation. I choose your mercy because you have given me mercy.